And we are live. Hey everyone, welcome to our very special live stream today with this amazing panel of guests around me. We'll be discussing how to implement the 5 components of location marketing with our friends from GroupM. Unfortunately, Marie can't join us today, but we have an amazing and super strong panel anyways. So let me introduce you to Zara Alikahi. You're the technology strategist at GroupM. Hi, Zara.
Hi, Eric. Hi, everyone.
And the director of own media, also at GroupM, Scott Romerman. Welcome.
Hi.
Hello, Scott.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. And my name is Eric Anderson. I'm the head of marketing at PinMeTo. Today we'll also be joined by our very own Bernardo Candeias.
Hello.
Hey, Bernardo. You're usually managing Spain and Portugal, but today you have another task.
Yes, I'm tasked today with be in contact with you that are watching live this event, or not. If you're not watching live, that's fine. We are happy that you are here watching this. If you have any comments or any questions, please write them down on Facebook or LinkedIn. I will be here anytime that I pop up. That means someone is asking something. So I'll leave it to you all. Thanks. I'll be back for sure.
Awesome. Thank you, Bernardo. And thanks to everyone for being here. So let's begin. All right. So the first question is it's open to address to all of you, but I'm thinking that I should start with you, Sarah. And that is, what is the most common mistake you see when businesses starts working with location marketing? What is the most common mistake?
The common mistake, and we are talking about, let's say they have already decided about the platform and they're about to implement. Right?
Sure, yeah, whatever. Like the most common mistake you see that you probably and hopefully help them not to do.
There are a couple that I can think of, and we come across these more of, like I would call them more of a challenges as well. And that's, first of all, lack of clarity on the ownership, where an initiative has been kicked off within the organization, investment has been done, but when it comes to implementation, it takes a while to sort that out. That's one thing. The other area that I have come across is not having your data tracking in place in the right time to be able to measure the outcome and the impact of every single step that you are taking along the way.
All right. Thanks. And Scott, the same question to you. What's the most common mistake you see businesses tend to do with location marketing?
Probably being at either end of a spectrum of overcomplicating or oversimplifying. So trying to find a happy medium between those two would be my major tip. I think that sometimes it's just like we just need PinMeTo and then all our problems are solved. PinMeTo is a brilliant tool, but there's a lot more to it than that. Or on the other end of the spectrum, this is very big and daunting and very complicated, and so we don't start for a year or more, right? So I'd say you've got to find a balance between those two. Recognize it's a journey, have a thought about that longer term perspective, but don't let it stop you getting started, you know. I got a link to a podcast earlier today, Dare to Suck, and that sort of inspired me a little bit coming into this session. I think that's a really important message as well. Just dare to get started and have a go.
For sure, definitely. All right, thanks. That's a great start. And I think when you're a business, before investing time and resources and money, I guess it all starts with a decision. And I think you're into this a bit, Sarah, just now. But what are the metrics you should be talking about in the early stage of implementation of location marketing strategy? Scott, what do you think should be the drivers and the metrics that you should track just from the start?
It depends a little bit on which of the components you want to focus on. For most, the starting point is going to be data hygiene. Do we have our location data up to date? And that's really an area where PinMeTo adds a lot of value. Addressing that immediate pain point of keeping location data for hundreds of locations up to date across tens or 20s of platforms. You know, it adds up pretty quickly. So can we measure data quality and get on top of that as a first step? And then if you want to get into some of those other pillars or components from our model, for the search parts are going to be search style metrics. For community management, it'll be things like average ratings, response times in terms of ratings and reviews, things like that. So I'd say the metrics are really very dependent on each of those components.
Yeah, maybe we should mention that we have just published 2 other episodes of our podcast with you. The first one, we go through the 5 components of location marketing, what it is. So if you haven't listened to that, you can go back and do that. One thing I also believe is important when implementing something new, maybe is to an organization, is to have the right key stakeholders on board. And as you mentioned, Sarah, have a clear ownership and sort of a structure in place, or at least have a plan for it. What part of the organization do you think, Sarah, should be involved when planning and doing the implementation of location marketing?
I would say it starts with the business model of this multi-location business that we are talking about. Are we talking about like a franchise model with a more centralized marketing, or a decentralized, or a hybrid? That would inform the ownership to some extent. But also ownership could mean from anything from the budget, but also the governance of the platform, but also someone who is the stakeholder and is responsible for certain KPIs that location marketing is contributing to. So depending on all those factors, I believe the answer would be slightly different. But something that we see commonly across the board is that someone in marketing is involved at the end of the day. And then depending on where you're at in your location marketing journey, have you come all the way to have even your community management in place? Or are you already in progress with your local content and as a part of your location marketing? And that would inform other stakeholders who get involved, from your paid media to the franchise owners and so on, and customer service, among others.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add there, Scott, on that one?
We'll probably talk a fair bit today, I think, about this question of centralized versus decentralized, because for me, that's one of the most complex things about location marketing, and recognizing that's a journey in itself. But you're never at one point in a single point in time either. You've got some locations who are more mature and more ready to sort of be decentralized, and others that aren't there yet and would need that more centralized support. So I think that's going to be a common theme through the day, because that's a real complex challenge. And I think it affects a stakeholder conversation as well, in that when you're getting started, it's probably much more centralized around a marketing team. As you bring in community management, maybe a new stakeholder comes in the form of customer support, for example. But then as you build the digital maturity of each of those locations, you start to move into a more decentralized but a hybrid model.
Yeah, we can see both, the companies we work. Sometimes the needs comes from the stores and local stores, and sometimes it's from the headquarters. So I guess it can be both. So Scott, you have some background in SEO. And in location marketing, there is something we talk about that's called local SEO. But it's could you just give a brief explanation of what's the difference between SEO and local SEO for those who are listening that aren't aware of that, if we'd go into that topic?
Yeah, sure. I'll go by our definition, which is quite simple. I mean, it's really just the part of search or SEO that relates to locations, where there's a location modifier within the search term, in essence. So whether I'm looking for a grocery store, or a car mechanic, but I might add a location qualifier, like a city or a suburb modifier to those searches, in essence. So the principles are much the same. The big standout difference is that on top of your own website and your own, or the content on your website being or ranking through base rank or native organic ranking, we're also talking about Google Maps results and being part of that local search.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So, Sarah, I have a question for you. You said in our last episode that you have a mantra that's, let's just say right this time, let the strategy inform tech. Well, that's correct, right?
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean with that, I feel like some of the common challenges that I come across as getting involved into like tech stack audit or like tool evaluation discussions is that sometimes you see the focus is so much into the next cool tool or technologies out there or the next feature out there that we lose perspective on what are we going to achieve at the end of the day in a year from now, in 3 years from now, if you already have that perspective. And then it turns into like something that I call an unnecessary effort into like something that is not going to support the goals that would basically support your next technology initiative. So basically you get into the loop that is not really effective. So that said, we always like take one step back, connect to as many stakeholders across different functions as we can, get everyone's perspective on it. What do they think this next technology would give them? And then translate them into technology requirements. And then that technology requirements will inform what the next best tool is for them, if a tool is needed at all, which sometimes it's not even like needed because of where they are at. And that's basically what we try to kind of like take into consideration as we get involved into these types of conversations.
Yeah. So you should know why to move into like why you move into a certain tech, like why you should use it and have a specific
exactly
strategy for that.
What problem are we trying to solve, or what opportunity we are trying to achieve that we cannot otherwise?
Yeah. Cool. I see Bernardo, you popped
Yes,
up. We should have like
I popped up. Exactly.
Yeah.
I should have a sound or something. Maybe drums.
Yeah.
Private joke. We just circling back for a bit. We, of course, some people that are watching are digital managers, and I have here something that is quite common, which is asking, but how do I explain to my stakeholders and my managers that this matters and that we actually need something like this and for us to grow. Do you have any tips or anything that they can actually learn from you to present their managers? So what can I say? From where can I start this conversation about local marketing?
To get the stakeholders on board. Is it
precisely?
Yeah, Scott?
Yeah.
Or Zara, who want to go?
I'll start. I think Zara's expert at this question, but an initial reaction is what's important to that stakeholder. So try and speak their language. How are they measured? For me personally, I like to think about the customer experience, and a simple example would be if you put yourself in the shoes of a customer, you might Google the opening hours and you find contradictory opening hours for a store that you want to go to on Google My Business or Google Maps versus their website, and you might decide not to go at all. So there's a lost sale there because the customer experience is not where it needs to be. But I think more important than that is to try and speak the language of each stakeholder.
What about you, Zara? What is your perspective on that?
I agree with Scott. I would just break it down into that when it comes to location marketing, there are so many metrics to track, and they will all roll up to what everyone works towards to, which is revenue. So depending on how accessible are those metrics to you, and how comfortable you are with what you already have access to, you can always build a case around it. And there are some best practices. And for us, sometimes it's easier to approach that and help our stakeholders to deliver that message because we have experience working with other accounts. We have some business cases. We know what can fail, what can be successful, and add up to that business case that hopefully would lead to a good decision at the end of the day.
And also show or presenting an idea of what it will look like if things are optimized, right?
Yes, actually, like Scott, jump in if I'm missing anything, but we actually have a few different very tangible steps that we take in order to inform that decision. In many cases, we even don't take the approach of let's go and do this. It's more of like, okay, let's quantify what opportunity is out there for you by just analyzing and studying your user behavior, your demand out there, and then translate it into, let's say, traffic to your website if the online revenue or online traffic is your goal, or translate it into potential foot traffic in the store if that's the goal of the stakeholder that you're about to present the case to. And then take it from there and quantify that. And then even if the decision is to invest in location marketing of some sort, then you can break it down in phases, which is a balance between that business opportunity, your resources, and your maturity to handle that along the way.
Absolutely. Data matters always.
Yeah.
I'll be back.
Right.
Makes sense.
Right.
Thanks a lot for that answer. So I want to go back to what you said, Zara, about having the strategy inform the tech. I'm thinking it's the same in everything in digital marketing, I guess, like having and understand why you need a certain tool. But where should do you need to have a full strategy in place? Like, I talked to you before, like about those 5 steps, and that's a pretty long journey if you haven't started. Like it can be years maybe to have all that in place. Do you need to have that full strategy in place, or do you need to have like the first step? And how much do you need to know to be able to start? Do you think?
I can't define what is the full strategy in first place, but I believe that there are a few key areas that we need to have as much clarity as possible before we make decisions like this around like the next technology or the next tool, the next investment. One is what is the business direction that company is taking? Are we gonna do any acquisition anytime soon? Are we going any merging with another marketing operation, with another brand, which is more of like a business model and business strategy to start with. So if we have that perspective, it will help us to kind of like know what is the ambition and how much investment we can make, and what are the how does the resourcing look like in next year from now on. And then the other component is what does it mean for the function that is leading this initiative in terms of success metrics? How are they going to translate this initiative's outcome into their success goals? And then from there, what resourcings are required to achieve goal number 1, goal number 2, goal number 3, and based on that, how ambitious we are in order to kind of like achieve that goal. And from there, you have a strategy, and that strategy would translate into like more and more specifics that would inform your tool selection, your processes, the stakeholders that you are getting involved. Are you going to outsource this part, or are you going to do it in-house, and so on?
I'm thinking, I do know we have a few of our customers that are listening, and maybe some of them are just in the beginning. They have PinMeTo, so they have the the location data and like the fundamental in place. And maybe some of them actually believe that, we have perfect location marketing. Everything is in place. What do you want to say to them to get them inspired?
That's a good question. I really, in a heartfelt way, I want to inspire people to see location marketing as a much bigger thing, to think bigger. And that's why on the podcast I joined previously, we spoke a bit about this Preston McAfee from Google, and him talking about megatrends, about the sort of reverse globalization that's going on. We see Google talking about other trends like slow living that are really coming out of the last 12 months. And just this more localized, connecting back to your local community. And I think if we can see that bigger picture, that it may not be on the levels of e-commerce in terms of mega trends, but it is something bigger that we can use as a weapon in our marketing arsenal, rather than just being very defensive about trying to prop up physical retail, rather than going on the offensive with it. And that's where the subsequent parts of our model come into play, whether it's local search or localized content or the community management part of it. That there are big opportunities to expand your location marketing beyond the data hygiene question.
Yeah. Great. Oh, you're on mute, Bernardo.
There you go. It was the sound. We couldn't hear the sound because I was on mute. Again, and of course, we hear a lot about from people that are actually managing these kind of things. Some questions here are: should this be part of the local marketing efforts? Should be part of marketing? Should be part of have its own bubble, its own KPIs and budget? How do you see these efforts being reflected in the company's structure?
Do you want to start, Zara, or shall I?
Go ahead. I can jump in.
My instinctive reaction is, like so many disciplines today, we need to think cross-functionally. So yes, it's very marketing heavy, of course, but this is the modern challenge. I think digital is really driving this blurring of lines between departments, and that's a big problem in our experience, just from a budgetary point of view, when we're trying to get clients to take next steps with their location marketing. Whose budget should it come from? Because it affects more than just marketing. So yeah, that's a pressing issue right across the industry, I think, to figure out how do we move from our traditional legacy ways of dividing up our businesses into silos and really learn to collaborate truly, and even down to the budget level.
I would just add that depending on like where you are at with your location marketing, like have you just got your data hygiene in place and let it be for now, or are you already touching on how I can leverage these resources that I have in order to kind of like sync even my branding with my localized content and so on, and then you will have different functions involved, and there's no way to kind of like isolate location marketing, because we are talking about driving organic traffic. We are talking about location ads that could be done across different networks and platforms in all sorts of formats. And we are talking about content management. We are talking about the traffic that will convert into revenue, or a form that gets filled out on the website. And then we are talking about driving traffic to all the store that you own as a multi-location business, and so on. So as Scott said, there are so many functions involved, and you cannot like isolate location marketing in one place. But you can make it easier and put it in practice and take one function at a time, depending on, as you get more and more mature, you involve more and more functions along the way.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Sorry, I'll add to that, Bernardo. I really believe in the cliche. If it wasn't hard, everyone would be doing it, and there's an opportunity there, right? That those who solve these problems are going to have an advantage over those who don't. So encourage people to grasp these challenges rather than run from them.
Absolutely.
I wanna follow up on that topic of successful, or like that it's hard to do, and it's not everyone maybe there's a big opportunity. Without mentioning any names, maybe, or please do if you can. But do you have any successful cases or where there has been a massive impact by implementing location marketing? Do you have any cases where you can at least maybe give some key factors that has been played the role of doing great success?
My initial reaction is we don't have as much there as we would like, because so many of the journeys that we're a part of are still in the early days. So we can talk about isolated successes, I guess, from those early steps of both the data hygiene question, how that affects customer experience, and also from the search point of view. We've had our own journey as well in terms of breaking down those silos and collaborating across functions. So that has been our focus for the last 12 months, is getting those building blocks in place. Beyond that, the community management, that's obviously an area where we see immediate impact as well, because so many customer journeys are impacted by the opinions of the broader community, rather than just what a brand is saying themselves. Zara, did you have anything more there?
I just feel like I can refer back to the topic that we were discussing about what functions should be involved, or who should it be like a standalone function within the organization or not. And since you asked about some examples, I think Mekonomen is one of the brands that we have been supporting, and they are very customer experience focused. They want to ensure that their audience gets the right information. So data hygiene is one thing, but they have also taken the next steps along the way by, I believe, PinMeTo's feature is which is called Listen and Respond, and it's a part of like community management in our roadmap. That they took that step later on, and this is where they involve their customer service, and now their customer service is a part of their location marketing, and they have access to the platform. They respond to the reviews, and this not only ensures that customers have the best experience, reviews go up, but it will eventually contribute to the rankings as well. As we all know, reviews are one of the factors contributing to your ranking and visibility, among other things. So there are examples that have been implementing and going along this roadmap and step by step.
Yeah.
There's examples from work we've done, again, with Mekonomen for Google Posts. There were a number of examples in an article we published with PinMeTo just this week as well, from the paid search side. So but they're a little bit too siloed right now. We're really pushing to get more of this big picture and see the compounding effect of getting more of the components in place.
Yeah, it seems like having the ear to the, what do you say in English? It's to the ground. Yeah. It seems like local content is really buzzing up. Like like a year ago, like no one didn't talk about it at all, and everyone thought it was too much of just too much resources. But it seems like that's something that's picking up. I can't mention the brand now because I don't know if I'm allowed to, but they have been working with local content for about almost 3 years and been using their Facebook pages super good. They just took the basic printed material that they already were localized and sent out physically, and just put up a process where they could turn that localized content into digital assets instead,
Mhm.
use their local Facebook pages, and they have insane results just by doing that. So I think there's still so much opportunity in that part. You're muted again, Bernardo.
It's always the same thing. I'm not getting a pro on this for sure, but it's me hiding the noise. The thing is, a very interesting thing about content marketing is that we have to somehow connect it with analytics. And not just content marketing, of course, everything else that we do in terms of location marketing and local marketing. How do you think it's the best way to measure? Each company has its ways. Content management should be some sort of have a mix with what is expected from check-ins or how many people is going into that specific location. How do you see that in terms of analytics?
That's a big question. I think we mentioned last time there's a Forrester report about localized marketing. I can't remember the exact name, but in there, and I agree, the sort of the last big challenge here is to get the metrics around local marketing all the way to foot traffic. And yeah, there's technology there, but for most of us and most of our clients, that's sort of at the far end of the journey of maturing around this. So until we get there, I think it's going to be more traditional metrics in terms of how many phone calls is it generating or visits to website, things like that. But of course, with geofencing sorts of technologies, there's opportunities to measure footfall. It's just how much we can attribute it right back to digital activities right now.
Great.
Okay, perfect. By the way, in terms of when we are speaking about a listing of any location, do you usually use UTMs? Any sort of tracking way for you to, if you have a website, for example, there, if you have a campaign running, is UTM the best way to measure that? It's something else?
Yeah, we use that by default through PinMeTo in our Google My Business listings, for example. Yep.
So we can even measure like the traffic to every location landing page to be specific as well. So we can even inform exactly. So that's quite possible. Even Scott mentioned like Google Posts, which is like leveraging a possibility that is available free of charge, and use a platform like PinMeTo just to set up that campaign for hundreds of locations within 20 minutes, if I'm not exaggerating, is another possibility to basically be able to keep track of the traffic and see how it's going to generate bookings and conversions along the way. I also thought about one thing that I think is getting more and more popular. At least we see that there is more interest coming in, although the technology has been available for quite a long time, is customer experience analytic tools. This is where it's not called content performance tool. It comes as like different titles, but let's call it customer experience. And this is where you can leverage those tools in order to kind of like measure the experience of your users on your website, both quantitatively and qualitatively. There are different features. You can see the recording, you can see where their engagement stops, and it goes way beyond just what Google Analytics can offer to you. So it's beyond just a set of numbers. And that's another area to explore in order to take your measurement to the next level and use that traffic to generate higher revenue.
Absolutely, goes beyond that. Goes to branding. Goes to many other great things inside of not just marketing but communications. Okay, thank you. I'll be back now with the noise for sure.
All right, so I want to talk some about maintenance because I think it's somewhat one thing to do a successful launch, but then to keep focus and have a drive and success over time. Is there something you should think about to have good maintenance and create good, like, have success over time in your location marketing? Even if you're early or later in that stage. Scott, what do you think?
I think the first question here is whether you want to handle it yourself or whether you want to partner like ourselves who can come in and take the load off, even if that's for a short period of time. And we really try to support that and talk about capability development as a part of our offering as well. So until a client is ready, we can tackle all those elements for them. And it's very much about the workflows and, again, technologies that might support that. So early on, it could be as simple as capturing maintenance tasks in Google Sheets, even though that's a very simple approach. Soon after that, if that becomes too much to manage and becomes too messy, you might look at a customer support ticketing system to manage those tasks. But first of all, I think it's about who's going to own it, and is that internal or a partner like us, and then manage that transition over time.
Yeah. Zara, I'm thinking this could be a good question for you. If you want to, in the maintenance, you want to keep up to date, like make sure that you don't get stuck with something that's get out of date, maybe, like it's so much happening right now in this area. Do you have any tip on how to stay up to date and knowing what to prioritize and how to adapt when things changes?
Sure, I can try from experience of like supporting some of location marketing operations that we do. So I would say maintenance could be broken down within perhaps 3 main areas. One is maintenance of your location data, which is, okay, we got the right data in place, but are we maintaining it? Do we have the right process to inform us in the right time when there are some changes and updates? Maybe a location closes, maybe a business hour changes, and so on. That's one basic maintenance activity that is ongoing. And sometimes we support our clients with that, or if they have resources, they will do it themselves. The other level is maintaining your SEO performance, let's say in local level, because that's a focus of today. And then we are talking about this proactive daily monitoring of how your website is performing. And then we use different tools depending on what area of the SEO we are supporting. Is it only local, or is it like their e-com platform as well, and so on. And there are so many tools to do that to make us efficient, but also effective. And then if you drop the ball here, you can't sit down and be comfortable that your visibility will remain the same forever, because algorithm would change. Your competitors are active on digital platforms, and you want to be on top of your game, so to speak. And then we talk about your overall business KPIs and how you are maintaining that set of data. And then it all goes back to how are you tracking it, and do you have like this customized dashboard that was created 2 years ago and no one is even using it, or are we talking about a simple data studio that we just created and we just use it for monitoring? Depending on what reporting you have in place, you want to make sure that data sources remain consistent from both technical perspective, but also from strategic perspective, and you upgrade your reporting and dashboard along the way as you get more and more mature. And that's another type of maintenance, which brings us back to, are we up to date about the strategy this year compared to the last year? Should we add a new data source to this reporting or this dashboard that we created a year ago. And that is more of a holistic perspective. So depending on like what area we are talking about, different activities are required to maintain and get the best out of your effort.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of big things happening. A year ago, still not that many that has, but Google Business Messages, for example, was launched just recently, and I think that would be a super big impact if you're that mature that you can incorporate that with your location marketing, so you have a good local customer experience and support as well.
Absolutely.
Do you see what? If we look a little bit ahead, what do you think are the sort of trends and stuff that will happen in a year from now? If we look back, if we meet up in a year, what have happened since now? Do you think? And the big ones? It's a hard question, maybe.
Yeah, we've started to talk about proximity-based marketing more and more, and again from a really diverse point of view. So a part of that is really simple things that probably a lot of brands are already doing, like promoted pins on different map solutions, but more maybe app-based push notifications when you get near a specific store, but even connecting that into digital out of home, for example. So you've really got a holistic approach to that proximity-based marketing. But I think a year we may not be there because there's still so much to do in terms of getting the basics in place. So hopefully we've moved beyond getting our location data up to date, and we're getting pretty good at local search, both SEO and paid search, and getting into community management, at least getting to that standard, I hope.
Yeah, I think you're onto some. Sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to add one thing that I feel like brings a lot of uncertainties about how it's going to look like in a year from now. Because when we are talking about location marketing, then we are talking about geo-targeting, geo-fencing, and so on. And then with some of the initiatives that we all have heard coming from big players like Google and Apple recently, like cookieless future, from Google, it can potentially have an impact on how we are leveraging this geo-targeting features that are embedded in pretty much every ads platform that we are using out there. And that could impact, I think, how the future would look like from a year from now.
Yeah. There's probably a lot of cool stuff that will happen, but I also nice for now.
Oh my God, I can't stop this now.
I just want to say to the ones that are listening now that even just doing the stuff that are available now and are basic, if you do them, you don't even need to do it super good. Just do it good, and you'll have massive opportunity right there, I think. Bernardo. Yeah.
Yes, I'm here. You were starting to speak about the future, which is super important for everybody because we are eventually there. And one of the things that I wanted to ask is the fact that, of course, some countries are now reopening. I'm in Portugal. It started reopening a couple of weeks ago. As the countries are reopening and the territories are reopening, so do companies have to rethink their strategies for the rest of the year and for next year eventually. Are companies now more and more aware that they need to pay attention to their local places, their local stores, the locations that probably they wouldn't think of, because now the revenue can come from everywhere, right? And do you feel that it's something that companies are now more aware of because of COVID, or it's a natural thing?
I think there's been a clear shift. Pre-COVID, My impression was that the conversation was rather defensive. That brick and mortar discussions were a little bit. We need to fight the shift towards e-commerce, because particularly in franchise businesses, you've got franchise owners who, it's their livelihood, and so we need to sort of prop up the physical retail side of things. But I think Tone has at least become optimistic and moving towards or recognizing this sort of reconnecting with local community and the fact that, hey, there's an opportunity here. People are getting back to basics.
And I would just add that, like, if you haven't done it already, use this opportunity to experiment as much as you can. Give a shot to your localized content on your social platforms. If you haven't done it already, pay more attention to your offline traffic compared to your online traffic if you are driving traffic to both. If you have both e-commerce, but you also have retailers, then pay attention to like how your main metrics have changed and shifted along the way. And as a result of what? Did you do something that changed that shift, or it was just a consumer behavior? And pay as close attention as you can. And if you feel like I don't have any data to make any conclusion, then go ahead and experiment as soon as you can. And that will inform the direction that you want to take going forward, depending on like how soon we go back to normal, if there will be a normal.
It's interesting that you mentioned the consumer behavior, especially now that I've read a couple of weeks ago something that is now happening in the United States, which is the fact that some companies, big corporations, are now shifting to letting people work from home. From wherever they want to be, and they are now going and moving to cities that are cheaper. For example, big corporations in San Francisco, people are now, of course, San Francisco is an immensely expensive city. They are moving to their own states, probably. And that is super interesting, because probably a store or a place, a location, a selling point that didn't matter a lot before COVID, maybe now it's a big opportunity. There's a big opportunity there, and people need to follow these trends. Just to mention that, I thought this was really, really interesting.
That's a very interesting point you brought up. I feel like this, if I was a multi-location business owner, I would start looking closer to my my performance metrics across different locations and see if I see a shift among my locations, because then if I have a centralized marketing budget, then it will inform how I'm going to spend more money next year, depending on how the trend would shift. And that would be another way of like looking at the bigger picture and kind of like change your focus or invest more or less in certain areas.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I want to add something about what you said, Scott, that the it's been kind of defensive before, and I also think it's been kind of weird that it's been like either or, like either e-commerce or offline store. Like it's not either or. They should like help each other out. And I feel like there's a shift towards that now. I've seen some companies that have been like very creative and doing use their stores, and the store managers and the people that are working in the stores that are actually like experts at selling your products, setting up so they have like using video like video online selling, so they use the stores to actually improve their e-com as well. So I think there's a shift, and I think it's not either or. They should be connected and help each other out for sure.
Yeah, from a business world point of view, that's the silver lining in COVID, I think, is it's this great accelerator of transformation. Yeah. And I think we're going to get to that omni-channel sort of hybrid integrated experiences with click and collect becoming prominent a lot faster than we would have without it, actually.
Yeah. Bernardo, can we get you up here again?
Sound. I have sound now. Yes, you can hear me.
Yes, I just wanted to check in and see if we do have any other questions that are in there, or
One of the things that I try to do is to globalize, and as the future is going to be more and more. But no, I mixed some questions, and thank you for everybody who commented on LinkedIn and Facebook. And there's no more questions. Thank you so much for answering our audience.
All right, great. Then I think it's time to round up. Then it was really a blast having you today. It was thanks a lot for being part of this. Thank you, Scott, and thank you, Zara. Thank you, Bernardo. And thanks to everyone who watched this live and to all the questions. And if you're listening on not live in the podcast, make sure to listen to the last 2 episodes that are good to either before or after listening to this. Also with where we go more into details with Scott and Zara and also Mary. So thanks everyone. I'm Eric Anderson. Feel free to DM me on LinkedIn or whatever if you have any questions, and we'll be back soon with some more interesting topics. So
thank you for having us.
Yeah.
And I encourage everyone, if you have more questions or if you have any opinions on this topic, we would love to hear, because we believe that we are also learning as we do multiple projects around location marketing. So any opinions, any thoughts, any feedback are more than welcome. And probably LinkedIn is the easiest way to connect these days.
For sure.
Thanks for the opportunity. That was fun.
Thank you. Thanks everyone.
Thank you so much, Scott. Sarah, thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you.
for
Bye.
now.